Is the mic on?
I witnessed Thor Love and Thunder yesterday. God, did that movie just piss me off. Alright, before I get into this review, be sure to like and subscribe, all that typical YouTube stuff. Now, I didn't have my expectations too high for this movie because Thor Ragnarok wasn't necessarily my favorite. It had some cool scenes in there, and I thought the story was decent for that one, but I think they were trying too hard with the jokes. Now, this movie is just a non-stop shit show. I mean, from start to finish, it's joke after joke after joke, and there might as well have been a laugh track, because I wasn't laughing, and I don't even think everybody in my theater was laughing, because these jokes felt so forced. Now, it's a fun movie. I'll give it that much. I had fun watching some of the scenes, and there's some good action sequences. The CGI was pretty good. Visually, this movie does something different than pretty much all the Marvel movies, and I appreciated that. I like when Marvel tries to do something different visually and tries to, let directors do what they want, but I think they gave Taika Waititi too much freedom, or maybe not too much freedom. I think maybe they just chose the wrong director to give a lot of freedom to. Look, some jokes in here were funny, and, some jokes, did make my theater laugh, and I'm sure it's done that for a lot of other theaters, but I just found myself joyless throughout most of this movie, and it's really depressing because this is such a bright, colorful movie with happy undertones and everything, but it just did nothing for me, and it's really disappointing to see how they've massacred this character. It was nice to see the Guardians of the Galaxy for 15 minutes, but that didn't save the movie, and I think if they were in the entire movie, maybe that could have helped it, but I think if James Gunn made this movie, it'd be a lot better because he knows how to write characters pretty well, and he knows how to balance humor a little bit. There are times, in his movies where he has too much, but anyway, I think he does that sort of thing a lot better. This movie felt like it was made for toddlers, and I heard that Taika Waititi said it's like a movie that was made for 7-year-olds. And to me, that's just so, sad. I just think they could do so much better with this character. I get that they had to make him more fun and likable, but this is just depressing what they've done to the character. They were really reaching with the jokes in this one. I mean, like I said, it's non-stop. Every single character kind of feels like they're the same for the most part. There's some that stand out. I mean, of course, Christian Bale's character Gore stands out because he's the only serious one in this movie, but it just felt off in terms of the tone. A lot of jokes are dragged out. There's a whole sequence of the new Asgard where it's just a joke, and the entire town is a tourist spot, and they have a whole play with Matt Damon and Melissa McCarthy, and it's not just a quick scene. It's dragged out, and you just want the movie to start, but you have these scenes that kind of get in the way, and it's so annoying. Every single joke in this movie has already been done. It's just being repeated, so it's just not that great. They made Thor the dumbest character in this movie, I felt like. I mean, he's just oblivious to everything. He's clumsy. No one respects him. Everybody's annoyed by him. And to me, that's just such a disrespect to the character because that's not who he was in the beginning. And honestly, I miss the original Thor. I don't care if people think he's boring. I thought that was a cool character, and I felt like they could have done so much more with that. I miss the first Thor movie. That's probably my favorite, sue me, but I think that was, the foundation for this character, and now they've just made him to a dumb piece of shit, so I hope they kill Thor off at some point. I mean, he's not a character I'm attached to anymore, so fuck it, kill him off. Who cares? Christian Bale was probably the highlight of this movie. He played a great villain. He's the only character that is actually serious. He probably puts on the best performance, in my opinion. I think he did an amazing job, and he was a very, well-written villain. I think from start to finish, his story was interesting, and I actually feel like they could have had more scenes with him, and they definitely should have had a stronger relationship between him and Thor, because I think they could have done something with that, and they could have made Thor a little more serious with those scenes, but instead, We got this shit show, and I felt like Gore, the God Butcher, did not fit in this movie because of how ridiculous it was. So I was very disappointed. I feel like Christian Bale should have waited for a different movie. I mean, this is just an absurd movie with like pointless jokes. I will say that I was actually impressed with Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor because that character didn't feel forced and she wasn't an annoying joke. She was actually one of the serious characters, and I felt that her story was compelling, and they didn't try to like make her super OP or anything or make her like instantly a badass. Like, she kind of had to work her way up, and I really appreciate that. Like, Marvel tries to make some characters amazing from the start, such as Captain Marvel, and we all know how that went. So I think they handled this character very well, and the way, you know, her story ends at the end of the movie, I thought was, you know, surprising, and I like the way they did that. If you're someone that's not excited to see her as Thor, I'd give her a chance because they actually surprised me. And Natalie Portman always puts on a good performance, and I actually felt like her and Thor had chemistry for once, which they didn't have in the previous movies, so I thought that was done pretty well. And there's some brief moments in this movie where they're actually talking and they're having a serious conversation, which is nice. I shouldn't have to like beg for that, but apparently I do. The story was decent, but the execution was terrible. This movie is just pathetic in my opinion. It's too much. It's really reaching. I never got excited at any point. I thought Korg was annoying. I felt like they kind of ruined the Valkyrie character by making her a walking joke for most of the movie. I liked Valkyrie a lot more in Ragnarok, but I felt like she was too much of a joke in this one. I mean, yeah, she made some jokes in the last one, but this movie just really pushes it. I thought Ragnarok was just decent, but this one is just a nightmare. I don't think they should let Taika Waititi make any more movies. He's kind of annoying to me, and I hate to say that because I love Jojo Rabbit. I think that's an amazing movie that he made, and it's weird to see that he made that and made this because that's a quality movie, and this is a kind of crappy movie in my opinion, so it's also a preference thing for me, but I also just hate when Marvel movies are annoyingly like childish and filled with jokes. Excited for everything DC is going to put out, even if they're going to put out some crappy movies. I know there's going to be some good ones in the mix, so good enough for me. So if I had to rate Thor Love and Thunder, I'd have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. And I honestly think that score might drop. We'll see. So, yeah. Bye.